Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea. Now, every day on the John Campea Show in the mornings, that's our movie news show. We save some time to take some live questions. But here in the afternoons on Open Mic, that's all we do is take live questions. Bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about any topic that comes to mind when we're thinking about the world of movies and entertainment, a little bit of sports, some television, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. That's what we're here to talk about today. And hey, before I go any further, I want to remind all you guys who are watching us right now live, don't forget a little bit later today at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Robert Meyer Burnett and I are doing our first episode, Relaunch the Weekly Hero. Now, don't forget, we will be changing the name of the show. We just haven't come up with a good name for the show yet. So we're just going to call it the Weekly Hero for now. But the Weekly Hero is coming back, and it's coming back today, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for those guys interested in that. So just in a few hours from now, we're going to be doing that. Look, I don't even know what the hell we're going to do. We're just, it's not very well prepared. We're just going to be a couple of idiots talking about comic book movies, comic book TV shows, talking a little bit about some hot toys that we're going to have in here and stuff like that. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So maybe you guys will join us for that as well. All right. And let's get right to it and jump into the live questions. And we're going to start off today with Owen Curtis, who writes, "This news just affirms what I felt for a while. Oscars is just a glorified popularity contest." Okay, so what Owen's referring to, for those of you who didn't catch this earlier, the Academy of Motion Pictures, Art and Sciences, that's the Oscars, they've announced one of their dumbest decisions ever. They're going to create a new category for Best Popular Film. What? Sometimes you're faced with such stupidity that you just don't know what to say. This is one of those times. You get a participation award, and you get a participation award. It's like, oh, you weren't good enough to be nominated for any of the real categories? We'll create a category just for you. Undermining, of course, all the progress genre films have made, undermining all the progress comic book films have made, undermining all the validity with the Oscars and all that kind of stuff. Anyway. But what I will say, Owen, is that I disagree with you. You see, I think the very fact that a lot of the big Oscar films and a lot of the films that the Academy nominate have nothing to do with popularity. As a matter of fact, a lot of people have accused the Oscars in recent years about not being enough about popularity. And I disagree with that criticism, but I think this whole move by the Oscars is a response to the criticism that they don't pay enough attention to popularity. Some of the criticisms the Oscars got, and I think it's been unfair criticism, because the Oscars should be about rewarding excellence, not rewarding what's popular. But anyway, but one of the criticisms the Oscars have often got is that they don't do enough with popular films. So I would say, if anything, this move by the Oscars is an attempt to counteract the exact opposite of what you're saying. Like, when you get a lot of these films that get nominated for Best Picture and sometimes win Best Picture that don't even make, $100 million at the box office, some don't make $50 million at the box office, like, that's a sign that your organization is not concerned with being a popularity contest. So I will disagree. I mean, I agree. We clearly agree. It's a dumb move that they're doing. But I disagree as to what this move means. What I believe this move means is that they're trying to respond to the criticism that they don't focus at all on popularity. Whereas you look at it as saying they've always just been a popularity contest. I think this means the exact opposite. But hey, maybe you guys think one way, maybe you think the other. Jump in the comment section. Let me know what you think. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, Owen. Next one. LeBurn007 writes, "John Wick 2, I believe you saw that one. Ruby Rose is second in command to the villain in the movie. She's the mute assassin." Yeah, we were talking about the Ruby Rose thing, how she's been cast to play Batwoman in the CW Arrowverse shows, at least in 1 or 2 episodes. We'll see if it turns into its own show or not. But one of the things I totally forgot about John Wick 2. And so I talked about, Orange is the New Black, which I've never seen. I don't remember her at all in the Triple X Return of Xander Cage, which isn't memorable. Like, I saw it once and I think I fell asleep halfway through it. And I totally forgot about John Wick 2. Even with John Wick 2, there's not a lot to go on there. because she doesn't speak. She can clearly do the physicality. The physicality I thought was great. She came across as menacing. And if she can bring that to Batwoman, wonderful. But I still can't, even realizing, oh, that's right, I did see her. Because a lot of people in the comments section on this morning show, point out, John, she was in John Wick 2. I'm like, of course. But even with considering John Wick 2, we really still don't have a lot to go on as far as trying to evaluate her acting acumen. You know what I mean? Now, if I had watched Orange is the New Black, there is something there to go on. But I haven't seen it, so I can't judge that. So you're absolutely right. I totally forgot about John Wick 2. But even with John Wick 2, because of the nature of her character, didn't really get an opportunity to get a full grasp of what she's capable of as an actor. So I remain firmly agnostic when it comes to Ruby Rose being cast as Batwoman for a couple of episodes in the CW shows. I remain firmly agnostic because I just don't have enough of a sample size to gauge whether or not I think she's a bad actress or a great actress. I just simply don't know. I'm curious to find out, though. All right, thanks for that, Lex. Next, Trey Gaming writes, saw the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery last night. Thought it was good. Some issues, but good all around. I agree. I remember I was shocked when I watched the first 2 episodes, because I believe they launched the first 2 episodes. They debuted the series with the first 2 episodes they launched. And I remember watching them, and remember, I had trashed on the whole idea of this series for a full year. It's a stupid idea, and it's idiotic to put it on CBS All Access. I still don't know that that's a great move, but whatever. This is doing this, and it's doing this wrong, and there's all the behind-the-scenes drama. And then I watched it. And you got to leave your expectations at the door when you finally get down to watch it, no matter how good you thought something was going to be, no matter how bad you thought something was going to be. When it comes down to actually watch it, you got to set all that aside. And I did that. And I was shocked. I really enjoyed Star Trek Discovery. I really enjoyed it. There are issues. I'm not going to deny that. But I thought it was really good. I remember, especially those first 2 episodes, like the ones you just saw, I remember thinking, this is cinematic. I mean, it feels, from its visuals, its scope, it felt cinematic. It didn't feel like television to me. It felt like I was watching a motion picture. And, now, is it different in many ways than traditional Star Trek? Yes. Does that upset some fans of traditional Star Trek? Like my friend Robert Meyer Burnett, my friend Scott Mance? Yes. But I gotta tell you, setting that aside, I just watched it and I thought, I'm entertained by this. I find this to be pretty quality television. So not everybody feels the same way. And yes, it has its issues. But I gotta say, I would have loved to have said, this show sucks. Because I predicted for a year it was gonna suck. So I would love to say the show sucked. But I can't. I gotta be honest. I thought it was pretty good. I think I was wrong. It ended up being pretty good. But that's just my opinion. Other people feel differently, and it's all good. But I'm glad you enjoyed the first couple episodes, Trey. All right. Sayantin Bizwaz writes, just saw Captain America, the First Avenger. I never noticed this before, but for an MCU movie, it's surprisingly violent, even for a war movie. Oh, yeah, it is. It's quite violent. And you know what? Captain America, the First Avenger, I believe is very underrated. It is a much better movie than people give it credit for when you watch it. It is the underlying themes in the film, the character development in the film, the villain of the film. It's one of the MCU's better villains with Red Skull. I think it's a tragically underrated movie. Like when you talk about the great MCU movies, 6, 7 films get mentioned, but it's very rarely Captain America, the first Avenger. And while I think the other 2 Captain America films, Civil War, Winter Soldier, are better, I do, I think the First Avenger is a tragically underrated film. I think it's really great. Might be, you know what? Yeah, it's the best origin film. I think it's the best origin film in the MCU. And I think it's terrific. And you're right, man. It's a pretty violent film. Owen Curtis writes, hard to take them seriously. I think you're going back to talk about the Oscars again. Hard to take them seriously when so many decisions are based on personal biases and what the cultural climate is at the time. Okay, hold on a second there, Owen. That's a baseless assumption. You're just saying it's all based on personal biases. Dude, all of film is subjective. All of film is subjective. And saying that it's based on personal biases, according to who? And according to what? I know a couple of members of the Academy who are voting members of the Academy. Not like 50 of them, but I know a couple of voting members of the Academy. And they take their responsibilities as Academy members very, very importantly. But when it comes to evaluating film, film is art. When it comes to looking at art and evaluating art, it's all a subjective, personal thing. Now, unlike the Golden Globes, which has like 70 voting members, which can be easily swayed, the Academy of Motion Arts and Sciences has like 8,000 members who represent every walk of life in the film industry. You have directors and producers, studio people, actors, musicians, cinematographers, writers, film critics, film publicists, blah, blah, blah. You have 8,000 people representing every walk of the movie production life, all giving their personal opinion on what is the best and what is not. So by nature, there's a subjective opinion in all of that. Of course there is. It's art, no doubt. We all approach films that way. You approach films that way. I approach film that way. Voting members of the Academy approach films that way. There is no perfect system when it comes to awards, when it comes to art, right? There's no perfect system because there's no objective measuring stick. There's no way to quantifiably say one film is better than the other. But because of what the Oscars is made up of and what their process is and who their membership is, it's by far the most reliable and by far the most legitimate of any of the award ceremonies. By far. Easily. So the whole notion of, it's based on personal biases. Well, no, you can say that, but you can't actually prove that. It's not. And what the cultural climate is at the time. Well, look, all films are a product of what their cultural environment is when they're produced. Many of us look at the films we look at through the lenses of the current cultural climate that we're in. So an award ceremony filled with individual people looking at movies just like you and I do, that's not so different. So I'm not quite sure, Owen, and I respect what you're saying, but I got to admit, I'm not quite sure what it is you're getting at. Like, are you saying there should be some sort of objective measurement? There is no such thing as objective measurement when it comes to art. This just doesn't exist. Are you saying we shouldn't look at film through the lens of the current cultural environment we live in? Movies are a byproduct of the current cultural environments that they live in. That's art. All art is, really. Go back and listen to the music of the 70s, and then listen to the music of the 80s, then listen to the music of the 90s, then listen to the music of 2010s. Art is something that is birthed out of the cultural context that it lives in. Right? So I would say you got to take some of the edginess out of there because I do not agree. I do not agree. I see where you're coming from, but I don't agree. Maybe there are others who will agree with you, and that's totally great. But you and I just happen to see things differently on that issue. But I appreciate you sharing your point of view because your point of view is no less valid than mine. All right. Dakota Barber writes, are you planning to see Black Klansman? Gonna try to see it this weekend. I've heard solid things, and the cast looks great too. You know what? Last night, Anna and I were laying in bed getting ready to go to sleep, and she goes, oh, let's go see Black Klansman tomorrow because it is playing tonight here in Los Angeles. The problem is it's playing at 7:30 in Los Angeles, the screening that we wanted to go to. But me and Robert with Weekly Hero, we're at the very earliest we're going to be done is 6:30 tonight. Because we got the show at 5:30. At the very minimum, it's going to go to 6:30. It'll probably go a little bit later than that. It takes minimum about 45 minutes to an hour to get to where the theater is. We're just not going to make it. We're just not going to make it. So we're going to have to probably wait a bit to go see it, unfortunately. We really wanted to see it. I will get around to seeing it. I'm dying to see it, but unfortunately can't see it tonight like I was hoping on. But it does look great. I'm hearing very good things about it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right. Nathan Oswald writes, from 2000 to 2010, who had the best films, Marvel or DC? I don't know. I don't know, Nathan. I'd have to have a full list in front of me about specifically which films came out between 2000 and 2010. I simply don't know. I mean, on the one hand, let's see. Here Hero movies 2000 to 2000. I'll see if I can find a quick reference sheet here, but let's see. So obviously, like, you had Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Those pretty much were like of the era. Man, Spider-Man was great. Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that, Oswald, without a definitive list of which films came out in the era, so I can't say. Curtis is saying, last chat is referring to Oscars. Oh, no worry, Curtis. You were perfectly clear. Don't worry about that. I got where I got where you're coming from. Don't worry, I got you. Jordan's channel writes, are the Oscars adding a new category? Well, as we were talking about, that is what they're saying they're going to do. They're saying they're going to add a new category for popular films, which means, hey, oh, aren't you cute? You're not actually good enough to win real Oscars, so we'll create a little category just for you and pat them on the head. It's degrading to genre films. It's degrading to the Oscars themselves. This is a lose-lose for everybody. One of the things I said this morning, and I'll just make this point here again, because I think it's important. Some people, what they will want you to look at this as is, look at how we're going to honor popular films, when in reality what they're doing is undermining them and degrading them. Because I've made the argument, and I said this morning too, that genre films, particularly comic book films and others, have been getting better and better and better. To the point now that, like, a movie like Logan gets nominated, a comic book movie, gets nominated for one of the most prestigious Oscars, screenplay. In the eyes of the Academy, that is one of there's Best Actor, Best Picture. In the eyes of the Academy, the next up, probably higher than actor and actress, is screenplay, because that's the foundation of movie making, is the screenplay. And it's gotten better and better and better and better, and they've been getting more and more acknowledged, to the point that this past year, for the first time ever, a comic book movie got nominated for one of the top 3 most prestigious Oscars there is, Best Screenplay. That's amazing progress, and a sign of the times and a sign of the direction everything's heading. What bringing out this new category, Best Popular Films, what that's doing is undermining and degrading all of that progress that genre films have been making. It undermines all of it. And what it is, it's the Academy saying, your films aren't good enough, so we'll give you your own little category. What that basically means is any film that wins an Academy Award for Best Popular Film, it's meaningless. So you're not really one of the best films, but out of this one category we made just for you, you can take home an award. It's degrading. It's demeaning. It undermines all the progress that's been made in genre films. It's insulting to comic book movie fans. I believe it's insulting to genre films in total, and it's a disservice to the Oscars themselves. There's no positive way to look at this. None. It's a ridiculous thing they're doing. Can you tell it pisses me off? I get most pissed off when it's about things I love. I love the Oscars. I love the Oscars. This is stupid. This is really stupid. Anyway, Ben Rayner writes, when does the new category come? In 2019? I don't think they really specified. I think the first one, I'm guessing the first one will be the 2020 show. Because the 2019 show is for this year, the 2018 movies. So I'm thinking 2020, could be wrong, but I don't think they specified, to be honest. Cameron Peterson writes, friend arguing that making popular film is an art form. No, it's not. Making film is an art form. Making film is an art form. Making all film is an art form. Whether or not your film becomes popular is irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. You sit down, you make the best movie you can. Maybe it becomes popular, maybe it does not. Right? For instance, let's say Assassin's Creed, that horrible Michael Fassbender movie. Is it a popular film? No, it's not. It tanked at the box office. Is it a popular film? That's the thing. What's a popular film? Any film that's about superheroes is a popular film. No. There are superhero movies. There's a little film called Fantastic Four that would like to get your attention. Assassin's Creed is a video game movie. Well, it's a video game movie. It's a popular film, but it tanked. Is that a popular film? Making popular film is not an art form. Making film, whether it's popular or not, is an art form. And, whether your film is a dramatic piece, that's an art form. Comedy, art form. Period piece, art form. Thriller, art form. Horror, art form. Action, art form. Filmmaking is an art form. Making popular film is no more like a sub-art film than making movies about people with blonde hair is an art form. No, you're just making movies with people. Whether they have blonde hair or not isn't the question. You're making movies with people. That is an art form. So I would disagree. We might be nitpicking on semantics here, to be honest. It's not that important of an issue. I would just say I disagree with your friend's assessment. I think making film is an art form. Just like, making movies with people with blonde hair is an art form. No, it's not. Making movies with people is an art form. So that's how I would respond to that. That's just my opinion, though. But again, we might just be nitpicking over semantics, and it's not really that big of an issue anyway. Let's see. Cameron Belgrade writes, a new award other than the Super Bowl would be presented. It will be given to the most popular team that wasn't good enough to win the Super Bowl. Cameron, that is a perfect example. That is a perfect analogy, Cameron. I'm going to steal that. Just going to let you know right now, I'm totally robbing you blind of that. That is a great analogy. Great comparison. There's the Super Bowl, and then team that kept their uniforms the cleanest. Yay! You win the team that kept their uniforms the cleanest. There's award for the most popular teams. Like I don't know what are the most popular teams. So you got Dallas Cowboys are a big popular team. Chicago Bears, New England Patriots, and I don't know, pick another big popular, and New York Giants, okay? There's your popular one. So there's the actual winner of the Super Bowl that gets given to the best team. But then there's Super Bowl B that gets given to the popular team. Yay! That is such a great example, Cameron. I love it. I'm totally stealing that. That's a great idea. Nathan Oswald writes, they might award popular film based on box office. Right. So who's to say what's popular? The box office. So what you're saying is most successful films. As far as which movies have the best marketing to lure people in to see their movies. I mean, it might be. And I did think it was interesting that in the announcement, the Oscars said, and I don't have the graphic with me right now, but the Oscars said, what qualifies we'll mention later. Like, actually, let me just see if I still have this graphic here. Give me one moment to see if I still have this graphic, because I'm not totally sure that I do. But if I do have it, it's totally worth pulling up. Hold on a second. I cannot find it. And here I am wasting screen time as I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Okay, one second. I might be able to find it here. Give me a moment. So yeah, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, they basically said that we're going to be creating this category, blah, blah, blah. Criteria for the category we'll announce later. Like, basically what they're saying is, we have no idea what constitutes a popular film. So give us a little while to figure that out. Again, I'm having a hard time finding it. I might have deleted it, actually. Ooh, I shouldn't have deleted that. What did I do? I deleted something I shouldn't have deleted. This is riveting television, isn't it, guys? Watching me just going through my folders trying to find an image. Oh, well, whatever. I can't find it, regardless. The direct quote was basically saying, criteria will be announced later. It's like, I don't even think they figured out what the hell does popular film mean? Does any movie with Ryan Reynolds in it constitute a popular film? Does any movie that makes more than $400 million constitute a popular film? Why not $300 million? Why not $500 million? Like, I think they don't even know what the hell they're doing. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing. So they're still trying to figure out, what does it mean? What constitutes a popular film? It's going to be one of the questions that they got to answer. Tongers Viking writes, 2 weeks until a new season of Mr. Mercedes. Excited. I have no idea what Mr. Mercedes is. I know it's a TV show. I've heard of it, but I know nothing about it. I really don't. I thought you were going to say Mr. Robot, which I also know nothing about. I've never heard of it, but it's crazy because I got this one friend of mine. She loves Mr. Mercedes. I couldn't tell you the first thing about it. It's one of those. There's so much television on these days. Between Hulu, Amazon Originals, Showtime, HBO, Netflix, and we haven't even talked about networks yet. I mean, there's so much television out there. It's crazy. Taki75 writes, B.R. Brian, I guess, DePalma, Best Director, never nominated for an Oscar. I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad one. I mean, a Best Director never even nominated for an Oscar? Well, I don't know. I'd have to look at that list because Christopher Nolan has been nominated for an Oscar. Usually when we're talking about these types of things, we're talking about Best Actor never to win an Oscar, Best Actress never to win an Oscar, Best Director never to win an Oscar, Best Director never to be nominated for an Oscar. I can't say whether I agree or disagree with your assessment because I'd have to actually sit there and look over who has been and who hasn't been nominated for an Oscar. So it's an interest. I never think about it in those terms. But Brian De Palma, I mean, first of all, I find it kind of odd that really was he never nominated for an Oscar? Well, that's interesting. I'd have to look into that. Dakota Barber writes, what's your favorite Adam Driver performance? I love him as Kylo, but seeing him do other things like Patterson, and Black Klansman. I got to tell you what, I love him in Logan Lucky. I loved his character in Logan Lucky. I thought he was great in that. I really do. Now, he's been very solid in a number of things. He's a good actor. I mean, Adam Driver is a solid actor. But even though it's a light sort of comedy heist film, I honestly thought his performance in Logan Lucky was just fantastic. So right now, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Black Klansman, very much. But right now, I gotta say my favorite performance of his is Logan Lucky. Jacob Lee writes, what's up, John, you gangster? Conor McGregor versus Khabib, who wins? And also, what do you think of his acting future as he has charisma, confidence? Who cares? We have no idea if he has any acting ability. So I really don't care that he has like fake charisma and stuff like that. Doesn't mean he can act. Confidence doesn't mean you can act. I've seen some very confident actors who are terrible actors. So, no idea. Khabib, make no mistake, Khabib is going to destroy Conor McGregor. And first of all, like, a lot of people don't know who Khabib is. But let me tell you right now, not Demetrius Johnson, even though he just lost. Not Demetrius Johnson, not Daniel Cormier, not anybody else. I will tell you right now who the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world is. It's Khabib. Khabib is the best fighter in the world. He is nigh invincible and nigh unbeatable. He can't be beat. Now look, the thing is, in MMA, anybody can beat anybody if they land that one lucky shot. Anybody can beat anybody. I could step into the ring with Daniel Cormier, and there's conceivable, however unlikely, in whatever fantasy la-la land, that I could get lucky, land just the right shot, and it just hits him in such a particular way that his jaw breaks. Just because I hit it, not because of the force behind it, just hit it on the right angle that maybe the jaw breaks, and whatever. The flukes happen. Look, Matt Serra once beat George St. Pierre. Now, George St. Pierre came back and gave him the ass whooping of a lifetime in their rematch, but Matt Serra once beat George St. Pierre. Anybody in MMA can beat anybody else on any given day. To quote Al Pacino, on any given Sunday, one team can beat another. Does Conor McGregor have that any given day kind of chance against Khabib? Yes. Conor McGregor is one of the best pure boxing strikers in mixed martial arts. He has what they call a puncher's chance. Sure, he does. But remove that from the equation, he doesn't have a prayer. Khabib is going to maul him like a bear. And Khabib stylistically is the worst nightmare for somebody like Conor McGregor. You know, Conor McGregor has shown that he can be very vulnerable to exceptional grapplers. He was in trouble a number of times against Chad Mendes. He was in trouble, like legitimate trouble against Chad Mendes a couple of times. And Chad Mendes isn't that great, but he is a very good grappler. Khabib makes Chad Mendes look like an elementary grappler. And he's got a jaw of iron, Khabib does. He's going to stalk down McGregor. He's going to get his hands on him. He's going to drag him to the ground, and then he's going to pulverize him. It's just what's going to happen. Again, I wouldn't put $1 million on that because in MMA, anybody can beat anybody else on any given day with the right lucky shot. And Conor McGregor is an exceptional guy at getting in shots. So I would not say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely. Khabib is going to destroy him. There's a reason Vegas odds makers right now are making Khabib a 2-1 favorite. And I just don't see McGregor having much of a chance. And I'm going to enjoy watching him get his ass beat too, because he's a jackass. I used to be a big fan of his. Now I think he's just a jackass. UFC should have suspended him. He shouldn't be allowed to fight for 2 years. But hey, it is what it is. Wayne Clark writes, not sure if anyone's asked about Khabib versus Conor October. Who you got? There you go, Wayne. I just got to answer that one. Seneca Peters writes, big fan, love your work. Over under 35%. JG gives Disney a big middle finger and right directs a DC film. Well, here's the thing. There is, let me just double check this here. There is a story in the Hollywood Reporter right now. There's a story came out in the Hollywood Reporter that studios are already lining up to offer James Gunn high-profile projects. It's in the Hollywood Reporter. They're already lining up to offer him high-caliber projects. The only thing is, the Hollywood Reporter was talking to one studio executive who said, we can't directly make an offer to James Gunn right now because he's still negotiating his, dissolving his contract with Disney. This is one of the other things. It says James Gunn is going to get paid between $7 and $10 million to not work for Disney anymore. Disney is going to have to end up paying James Gunn between $7 and $10 million or more, the article says, or more, to let him go. And I put out on Twitter a little bit earlier, and once they let him go, they have to pay him that 7 to 10, and he can immediately take other projects from other studios. How many of us consider that a dream scenario? Wait. Let me get this straight. I get fired so I don't have to work, and you have to pay me $8 million? You want to pay me $7 to $10 million to not work for you. And I'm free to go and work with anybody else I want? Anyway, it's a fact. Look it up. Look up the article. It's a fascinating article. But yeah, apparently the studios are already lining up to work with him. We talked this morning on the John Campea Show about the likelihood, and that was the question of the day today on the John Campea Show as well, is do you think James Gunn will end up doing a movie for DC? I really hope he does. I really hope he does. Not to stick it to Disney. No. But he's so uniquely gifted at telling these types of stories. I would just love to see him do more, and maybe in DC. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, look up that article on the Hollywood Reporter. Just look Hollywood Reporter James Gunn settlement or something like that, and you should be the first thing on your search result. But it's a fascinating article. Okay, let's see. KW Garrett 83 writes, Iron Spider versus Movies Anywhere questions. Which do you hate more? By the way, Academy made new category for Best Canadian in a YouTube movie news show in Burbank. That makes about as much sense, right? That makes about as much sense. I think I hate Movies Anywhere questions more because there's only one, there's no other answer I can give. It sounds great and maybe it works for you. But for me, I use a service that I can get every movie that I want, and I only need it on the one service. So I have no need for Movies Anywhere. There's really no other answer for me to give, but for some reason, people keep wanting to write to me and ask me about Movies Anywhere. Now, so I'll say it again. Look, depending on how you consume your media, Movies Anywhere could very well be an amazing service for you. It could be amazing. I encourage everybody to check it out and see if it's for you. I do. I have checked it out, and nothing wrong with it. I just realize it offers no benefit for somebody like me. Like, I have one streaming service of choice that I like to use, and that's the Google Play Store. I buy all my movies from the Google Play Store. They all reside in the Google Play Store. Google Play Store is available for me to play on my laptop, my phone, my tablet, my desktop, my television, on my Roku, on my Apple TV, on my Amazon Fire Stick. It plays on everything. Therefore, the Movies Anywhere service doesn't offer me anything that I don't already have. So for me, there's no value in it. But not everybody's like me. A lot of people like to consume their media in different ways. And I think for a lot of other people, the Movies Anywhere service could be very valuable, depending on your media consumption habits. If you're like me and have my particular set of media consumption habits, there's no real advantage to it. There's no point in having it because I already have everything that it would potentially offer me, you know? But anyway, so yeah, there's just that. Let's see. John K. writes, Tony doesn't need Nebula. He can take Guardians of the Galaxy ship. Well, he wouldn't know how to fly it. He wouldn't know how to fly it. But that is true. The Guardian ship is there. Nebula, being the last surviving member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, not knowing that Rocket's still alive, technically the Guardians of the Galaxy ship belongs to Nebula because she started rolling with the Guardians. And remember, she reached out in Infinity War. She specifically reached out to Mantis. So she would probably have a claim on that ship. Actually, she would have to take that ship because she wrecked her ship, crashing it into Thanos in Infinity War. So Nebula's taken that ship. Remember, like, Tony had no idea how to fly Ma's ship. He said, I saw him pull these levers. Let's pull these levers. That's all they knew how to do. Couldn't land it, whatever. Tony would certainly have no idea how to get that ship back to Earth. So he still needs Nebula. Not in Nebula's ship, but in the Guardian ship. Unless I'm missing something, which is completely possible that I'm missing something. History Soup writes, get cameos, Frakes, Sirtis, Burton, Dorn. I don't think so. Talking about Star Trek The Next Generation cast members, could they cameo in, whatever new Star Trek show that's going to feature Jean-Luc Picard? I don't think you do much. They want to separate. They said very clearly, this is not a relaunch of Star Trek The Next Generation. By being so adamant about that, I think that pretty much tells us you're not going to see a bunch of cameos from a bunch of Star Trek The Next Generation cast. Nor should they. If you're relaunching Star Trek The Next Generation, fine. But if it's not, then don't. I think there is room there to maybe have one or two brief cameos in a season. Maybe it's Captain Worf. Maybe it's, Captain Riker. I don't know. But what I'm pretty confident you're not going to see, listening to Alex Kurtzman talking about the new series, I'm pretty confident what you're not going to see is just basically a new clubhouse for all the old Star Trek The Next Generation cast. This is going to be a Picard show. Maybe a brief cameo in one episode from Captain Worf, maybe one cameo in like either a Captain Riker or a sub-admiral Riker. I don't know, something like that. But I don't think you're going to start seeing all these different characters. And more than anybody, I think Q, if anybody, is the one that should show up. Q is the one that makes most sense to me. But if you're going into this new Picard show thinking you're going to see all these cameos from all your favorite Star Trek Next Generation characters, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Alex Kurtzman's been making that pretty clear. So we'll have to, that's why they just and every report you read over and over and over again, this is not a relaunch of Next Generation. This is not a relaunch of Next Generation. This is not a relaunch of Next Generation. This is a Picard show. So I think if you're going to say that, you've got to be aware of how much from Next Generation you use. And I think it'll be very, very minimal. I think it'll be very minimal. We'll have to wait and see. Or it'll just be, hey, the gang's all here. Who knows? We'll have to find out history. Roki Tutu writes, without Spider-Man in the Venom movie, I wonder if Venom will have Spidey's powers right from the go. I mean, it really, I don't know. It doesn't look like it. I mean, look, Spider-Man has superhuman strength, but lots of comic book characters have superhuman strength. Spider-Man has superhuman speed, but lots of comic book characters have superhuman speed. Spider-Man has superhuman reflexes and agility. Well, lots of heroes have superhuman reflexes and agility. So I didn't see anything in the trailer. I mean, it's an interesting question, Roki. I personally didn't see anything in the trailer that suggested he'll do something that, like, say, mimics web slinging or anything like that. I don't think we've seen anything in the trailers that suggests he's going to have some kind of Spidey sense. But really, those are really the only two unique powers to Spider-Man. All the other powers are pretty standard, pretty standard powers amongst comic book superheroes. Strength, speed, agility, that's all pretty standard stuff. You know, Shazam has that. Superman has that. Wonder Woman has that. I mean, on and on and on. Captain America has that. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm going to say I don't think they will. I don't think you're going to see anything that mimics web slinging. I don't think we're going to see anything that mimics a spider sense. Now, maybe they're just hiding that in the trailers. Possibly. But I exhibits like strength, speed, agility. I don't think you can attribute that to, oh, that's mimicking Spider-Man's powers, because like a plethora of comic book movie heroes have those particular abilities. So limiting it to web slinging, Spidey sense, I don't think he'll have those. But maybe he will. We'll have to wait and see. It's an interesting question. Let's keep our eyes open for that. All right, John K. writes, what if when Snap is undone, everyone reappears exactly where they dissolved, leaving Spidey stranded on Titan, hence he is far from home? Perfect! I think you did it. I think you just unsolved the mystery. That's the meaning behind Far From Home. And now, for some reason, Nick Fury and Maria Hill are going to try to figure out a way to get Spider-Man home, even though I don't think they've ever met. But it's a great theory. That would make for a very boring movie. Spider-Man sitting by himself on Titan. Well, I guess he wouldn't be by himself, right? He'd have like the Guardians or a bunch of the Guardians there. He'd have Doctor Strange there. So they'd have that. There's that. But it would be a pretty boring. That would explain Far From Home, though, for sure. All right. Angel Chang writes, the recurring cast for Guardians of the Galaxy signed a petition for James Gunn, and so did Zoe Z? Do you think she's coming back for another movie? Otherwise, why sign to be asked? Well, remember, I think Saldana. I don't know what you mean by Z. Zoe Saldana. That's with an S, by the way. I don't think it means anything. Why? Because you know who else signed it? Michael Roker. Or Michael Roker. However you pronounce Roker's last name. We'll call him Michael Roker. Who played Yondu. Right? He signed it. He's not going to be in the future movies that we know of. So I think it's just the cast, whether it's current, past, whatever, signed it. Obviously, I think Zoe Saldana's coming back. She's coming back. They're going to figure out a way. Just like they're bringing everybody else back. They shouldn't bring her back because that undoes all the dramatic effect of everything that happened in Infinity War, but whatever. She's coming back. But I don't think the fact that she signed that document in support of James Gunn, I don't think that suggests she's coming back because, like I said, Michael Roker signed it as well, and I don't think he's coming back. So she's coming back for sure, but signing that document isn't what tells us she's coming back because Michael Roker signed it too. So that's just kind of how I see it, unless I'm missing something, which wouldn't be the first time. Let's see. Hudson Smith writes, just watch 500 Days of Summer, such a good movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Mark Webb directing it. girl from New Girl, Zoe Deschanel in it. It's a wonderful little movie. It's funny because in the last month or two, I've had 3 or 4 people write to me, both on this show and privately on Twitter, saying, hey, I just watched 500 Days of Summer for the first time. I think a lot of people dodged it at first because I think a lot of guys dodged it first because to them it looks like a chick flick, right? And to a degree it is. I dig me some chick flicks. Some chick flicks are great. But anyway, and I think now, for whatever reason, think, oh, maybe I'll check it out now. And they're watching it going, oh, hell, why didn't I watch this before? It's a good movie. Wonderful character development, really interesting way. It's not traditional, just linear storytelling. It's really a cool way that they do it. It's got heart. It's got humor. You feel empathy for the characters. It's just really well with an ending you probably wouldn't have predicted. It's a solid little movie, so I'm glad you had a chance to watch it, Hudson. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, thoughts on Grosse Pointe Blank. Love Grosse Pointe Blank. One of my favorite movies. Well, first of all, Dan Aykroyd as the great little villain. I believe it's Minnie Driver who's in that. Probably my favorite John Cusack movie. It's such a cool idea. A hitman. It's a concept that's been used a lot lately, but a hitman going back for his high school reunion. And hold on a second. Now was it Minnie Driver? Hold on a second. Grosse Pointe Blank cast. I believe it was Minnie Driver. It was Minnie Driver, yeah. Of course, and John Cusack's handler was played by his sister, Joan Cusack. Dan Aykroyd was great in it. I totally forgot Jeremy Piven was in that. And I totally forgot Hank Azaria was in that too. It's just such a cool cast. It's fun. It's funny. John Cusack is awesome in it. Like I said, I think my favorite all-time John Cusack film. Dan Aykroyd plays the great antagonist in it. Yeah, I adore Grosse Pointe Blank. And that was just one of the movies that had me completely in love with Minnie Driver for years. Like, I was in love with Minnie Driver for years. Speaking of Minnie Driver, she did a film with David Duchovny that I know a lot of you guys have not seen. It's a romantic comedy, but it's awesome. It's called Return to Me. I'm sorry, we just jumped from Grosse Pointe Blank, but it's Minnie Driver's the connective tissue here. I know a lot of you guys have still not seen Return to Me. Watch Return to Me. Good movie. Good movie. Check that one out when you get a chance. And Grosse Pointe Blank. There's a double header for you guys. Grosse Pointe Blank and Return to Me. You won't be sorry. Let's see. Rock 4042 writes, hey, John, do you think the oceans should be held between Christmas and New Year's to help with ratings? Oh, why did I read the oceans? The Oscars between Christmas and New Year's to help with ratings. No, they absolutely should not. Because technically speaking, there are films that could still come out and have not been released to the audience yet. I really do think it should be the final major show of the season. They did announce, by the way, when they announced these new things like shortening up the show to make sure it stays to 3 hours, the addition of a idiotic popular films category, they also announced that they're going, starting in 2020, they're going to move up by about 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to make the show earlier. So traditionally, the Oscars is usually the last weekend in February. Now it looks like it's going to be the first weekend in February. That's a difference of about 3 weeks. So that's significant. Between Christmas and New Year's, no. Besides, you still have a lot of people on vacation. People are focused on other things. It's not a good time for the show. First weekend of February, I do like that move. In the midst of their idiotic move of launching a most popular film category, why did I make that face? I have no idea. Anyway, in the midst of their stupidity of launching a best popular film category, they have made a couple of smart moves. Tightening up the show to be 3 hours, moving some of the lesser cared about categories to being presented during commercial breaks. I like that move. And the idea of moving the show up 3 weeks, I also like that move. Good moves. So between Christmas and New Year's, no, but they are moving the show a little bit earlier, and I do like that move. All right. Jacob Lee writes, why punish somebody for something they've changed about themselves? Seems petty. This is why I fundamentally disagree with Disney's actions against James Gunn. That is the fundamental. See, here's the thing. There are stupid people out there. Now look, if you're bothered by what James Gunn said, hey, that ain't stupid. That's understandable. James Gunn suffered what I called IMM, or idiot moron mouth. James Gunn made comments that are indefensible. And there's some people out there, like when I express that it is dumb that Disney fires James Gunn, people go, oh, so you support the types of jokes he made? No, there's no excusing them. They were horrible. But you know who was the first person to acknowledge that they were horrible before anybody else did? James Gunn. James Gunn, years ago, decided, oh, hey, these types of jokes are A, not funny, B, do not represent the type of person I want to be, C, they're offensive, and so D, I need to stop. I can't act like that. I can't say things like that. So I'm going to change. Nobody made him change. Nobody called him out for it, even though all those tweets were public. Those 30 or 40 tweets he made were all public. By the way, there's this fairy tale going around that he made 10,000 tweets about these jokes. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. There was 30 or 40 of them, which is bad enough. But he himself, and nobody said anything about them, he just decided on his own years ago, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And I don't want to be that, so I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to change that about myself. And years ago, he stopped and changed. He's the one who said, that behavior is not acceptable. I can't condone it. I am not going to put up with it, so I'm not going to do it. He's the one who did that years ago. Like, so somebody says to me, oh, so you support the jokes? No, they're indefensible. But the first person to say that they were indefensible was James Gunn, and therefore made the conscious decision on his own without anybody making him do it to stop. And he did. He stopped years ago. I keep telling people, look, if James Gunn were to have made those tweets today, get him out of here. You'd have no argument from me. If James Gunn just suddenly put out tweets like that today, get him out of here. But what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a guy who did stupid things, recognized he did stupid things, decided to change that about himself and stop doing those stupid things, grew and moved on. And we want to punish. Correct? Is that not what we want to encourage people to do? Do we not want to encourage people to recognize their own shortcomings and to make a decision for themselves to stop the negative behavior they were doing and to move in a direction and move in a better direction? Is that not what we should be encouraging people to do? Because that's what James Gunn did. That's what he did. And changed that years ago. To now punish past behavior that he has already corrected years ago is asinine. Especially, and there's no defending his jokes or tweets, they were in terrible taste. But he didn't break any laws. He didn't go out and hurt anybody. He didn't beat his spouse like some other Disney cast members did. He didn't risk people's lives driving high on coke and heroin with a gun in the car like other people in Marvel films have. He didn't do any of that. They were just tweets. Horrible, indefensible tweets, but they were just tweets. And he recognized the bad behavior, and he stopped, and he changed, and self-corrected years ago. What are we even talking about this for? Why is this an issue? If he had made those tweets today, no argument from me, get the guy the hell out of here. No argument from me. But he self-corrected his behavior years ago. So why are we still talking about this? Why is this an issue? I simply don't get it. I simply don't get it. To me, it's asinine. Not why you'd be offended at those tweets. Of course, they're offensive. Of course they are. Every right to feel offended by it. But why are we talking about dishing out punishment on somebody for somebody who did not break any laws, even though it was bad behavior, but he recognized the bad behavior, self-corrected, stopped doing it, and has been acting like a model citizen for years now. And now we want to go back and retroactively punish him? Oh my God. Anybody who holds that idea, you better hope and pray nobody decides to start digging into your past. And digs up stuff, even if it's stuff you've corrected, and even if it's stuff you've made up for, and even if it's stuff that you no longer do, you better hope and pray nobody digs in your past and finds an off-color joke, something bad you've done to somebody else, blah, 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 even if you've corrected. What's the motivation in correcting your behavior anymore? Why would I want to correct my bad behavior? Well, I made one off-color joke. I guess there's no point in not doing it anymore because I could have my career taken away from me just for that one joke. No point in improving. No point in growing as a person. No point in correcting my behavior because there's going to be some zealots out there for their own political agendas are going to want to come back and drag that up and then have me retroactively punished. It's idiotic. It's purely idiotic. But anyway, that's just... yes, Jacob, you've articulated it perfectly. Okay, let's move on here. Stuart... Hannigan writes, "Hey John, how much do you love the 1978 Battlestar Galactica?" Well, it was before my time. I was couldn't watch TV at that age, but I remember years later watching the reruns. I loved the original Battlestar Galactica. One of the greatest TV shows, one of the greatest TV themes of all time. You know, you got Airwolf, you got Knight Rider, Battlestar Galactica theme. It's just incredible. I used to love it. The Battlestar Galactica 1980, the relaunch of the series, they still had Lauren Green, but a totally new cast and everywhere they find Earth. That was horrible, unwatchable. But I loved that original series and all the myth. It was way ahead of its time. Let's see. Styler, where'd we go? We lost Styler. Here we go. Styler Manu writes, your brave words about the Gunn situation on the show yesterday were brave and poignant. You've certainly changed my perspective. Unfortunately, we live in an era when past tweets are used as political weapons to ruin careers. Well, first of all, Styler, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Look, I think past statements are fair game to address in modern discourse. However, past statements that somebody already years ago demonstrated they've refuted their own statements and had a change of heart and a change of direction from those past statements, and they made that change of heart years ago, that's when it becomes pointless. That's when it becomes pointless. And I think that's key to understand. And again, as far as my words being brave, I'll be honest, it wasn't bravery. It was just frustration. It was frustration for me, not bravery. You know, what's brave is people who suffered abuse. There are people out there who suffer abuse ongoing for years at the hands of family sometimes. And like me, I had it. I'm not going to say I had it easy, but comparatively, I had it easy. I mean, my situation is nothing compared to people in those situations. Those are brave people. Mine was really more spoken out of frustration than anything else. But I appreciate your sentiment nonetheless, Styler, and thank you for pointing that out. Styler follows up with, oops, I used too many braves in that last super chat. Please, can you consider moving the weekly hero to an earlier slot? 5:30 p.m. PST is 1:30 a.m. GMT. I'm assuming that's in Europe. Here's the problem, Styler, and this is the situation. Right now, I've got the John Campea show at 9 a.m. Then I have open mic. I mean, if I do it much later, then I'm going to get in trouble with my wife because I want to try to have the show wrapped up right around the time Ann gets home so I can still have an evening with my wife, right? Can't do it much earlier because open mic doesn't even end until 3 o'clock. In the afternoon, I'm working during the afternoon, and Robert's not nearly as available in the afternoons as he is in the early evening. So it was the 5:30 p.m., particularly the Wednesday 5:30 p.m. time was out of necessity. That's just the available time we had to do it. It was just the available time that we had to do it. Like I remember, some people would say to me, John, why are you doing your weekly hero on the same day that the other hero show is on? Well, first of all, I thought the other hero show was on Monday or Tuesday because they had just put up a show on a Monday or something like that. So I thought it was on Mondays. But honestly, it had nothing to do with it. It was just Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. was the best time for us to do it. Other days of the week became problematic, both for Robert's schedule and my schedule. And there were other times, like if we had a proverbial gun put to our heads and said, you can't do it Wednesday at 5:30, there are one or two other times we could do it, but are actually quite inconvenient for us. Just Wednesday at 5:30 was the best time. So I appreciate the sentiment, but don't worry, you can always watch the show afterwards. But for now, for at least for the near future, it will be Wednesdays at 5:30, unless my schedule changes, Robert's schedule changes, and another time becomes a better time for us, then we'll do it. But yeah, putting the weekly hero back in when I've already gotten my schedule so full, it was a challenge trying to come up with a good time to do it, but this is just the best time for us to do it. So I apologize. I know it's going to make it inconvenient for some people to watch live. My apologies for that. It's not on purpose, I promise. It's just when we could do it. It's just when we could do it. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Murray Reichs. Oh my gosh, we've already gone over an hour. I'll take 2 more questions here. Murray Reich writes, a great Star Wars Insight channel to watch is Star Wars Explained. Alex Damon is the host of it. He talks in depth from legends / canon, TV shows, movies, etc. He's basically a Wikipedia site. I've never heard of that, but that's good to know. I've always liked adding. I've got like a sub in my bookmarks folder. I've got a subfolders of Star Wars informational sites. Always looking to add new ones. So thank you for sharing that one, Murray. Murray Reich follows up. I'm curious to know who this guy is who chickened out from the Star Wars show. He did not chicken out. For those of you who don't know what Murray's talking about, since I was getting the Weekly Hero started again, and since in recent weeks there's been a bit of a temperature change in the Star Wars fandom, I had considered relaunching Star Wars Talk Tuesdays if I could find the perfect co-host. And I had my own criteria. And I appreciate all of you guys who have sent in volunteering yourselves to be co-hosts on my show. I've got about 70 emails from people saying, John, I would love to be your co-host. I appreciate that very much. I will find my co-host, but thank you for volunteering nonetheless. And I had the perfect guy. The perfect guy. And he agreed to do it. But then after he agreed to do it, he went, I don't know. It's partially because he doesn't really want to be on camera. There's another reason why. I think he questions the appropriateness of him doing one. I can't give too much away. Because if I say too much, you're going to know who I'm talking about. But I think on top of the whole idea of like not wanting to be on camera, there is also the notion of, I think he's worried a little bit about the appropriateness of him being who he is doing a Star Wars show regularly. And I understand. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated, but I do get it, and I respect it. I respect it. And I'm still going to work on getting him on as a guest if I can. But first, before thinking about getting guests on, I got to first get myself a co-host. And right now, you guys are like furiously coming up with theories about who it is I'm talking about. And if I said the name, you'd go, really? Like, so there's that. But I will at some point let you guys know who it is. I will at some point, just not right now. Just not right now. Because I don't want him... I'll let you know who it was after, if I ever find a new co-host for myself, and if I ever get Star Wars Talk up and running again. Once I do and got it up and running again, so there's no pressure on him to do it, then I'll let you know who it was. I'll let you know who it was at that point. And then, yeah, there you go. All right, you know what? I will take one more question. And this one comes from Darth Impact, who writes, hey, John, you and I agree on a lot of things. That's why I love you, man. But there's one thing we disagree on, the prequels. I enjoy them, but can we agree on this? It's Star Wars lore. Canon. Star Wars lore. I don't know what lore. Are you trying to say lore? Star Wars lore? If you're saying lore, oh yeah, look, I hate the prequels. Everybody knows I hate the prequels. But if I always say this, but if you like the prequels, I celebrate that. That's great that you get enjoyment out of them. That's wonderful. But I've always said this too. As much as I hate the prequels, I will defend to the death those films that they need to be untouched and left alone because they are canon. I often do the comparison of, when family is family. Yes, Uncle Rich might be, an alcoholic who can't hold down a job, and he still lives in your grandmother's basement, and he's basically an embarrassment to the family. But he is still family. And you'll stick up for him because he's family. To me, that's what the prequels are. They're the drunk uncle that can't hold down a job. Their life is a mess, and they still live in my grandmother's basement. But they're canon. They are canon. As such, they cannot be tampered with. It doesn't matter that I don't like them. They cannot be tampered with because they're canon. And I will defend them on that level. I always will. So yes, you and I can completely agree on that, even if we disagree on the quality of those films. But that's great that you enjoy them. I love that you enjoy them. I do not, and it doesn't change the fact that I hate them. But you like them, and I celebrate that, and they are definitely canon. All right, guys. For all the other questions that have come in, there's still a bunch of coming after that, but I am out of time and I got to start getting ready for the Weekly Hero. Do not worry. I will gather up all these questions and they will be used in an upcoming companion video. Your questions that you sent in will be addressed on a video in an upcoming companion video. Keep your eyes open for that. But that will do it for me for right now. Listen, guys, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I love the afternoons. I look forward to this show every of course, we will also be getting into some live questions as well. So your live questions will be addressed as well. Make sure you join us for that 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's John Campea. And until next time, bye-bye.